Inner fiasco. AITAH for telling my husband he can make himself dinner and asking my mother to leave. I invited my mother over for dinner. I made spaghetti the same way I always do. Ground beef, a traditional spaghetti sauce, but I add a mix of veggies including carrots, peas, green beans, corn, celery, lima beans, and potatoes. All chopped very small and mixed in with the sauce. Regular spaghetti noodles. My children and I, my sisters, etc. eat this spaghetti and never had a complaint. I started adding the vegetables years ago when I had children as a way to make sure they're healthy and getting their vegetables. My husband made a comment the last time that he wasn't too fond of the lima beans, which I had actually forgotten about, but at the time I told him it was good for him. To me, there's no real flavor difference. A little texture change, but nothing too noticeable. While cooking dinner, my mom and I were chatting, and then she saw me adding in the vegetables and started asking why I would add vegetables. She was shocked. I told her in good humor to let me do what I do. It's good. At this point, my husband chimed in asking if it's spaghetti with the vegetables, and she said yes and laughed. They continued to make fun of me and asking where I saw that. That's not even a TikTok. Nobody does that. Continuing on, while I continue making dinner for all of us. I told them multiple times that it's good for you and reassured my mother that if she tries it, she'll see there's no taste difference. She asked why I would bother adding them then, and I reiterated that it is good for you. My mom then Googled recipes and said only vegans add vegetables to their spaghetti and they don't put meat in it. Just kind of kept going, and my husband chimed in from the living room playing his game with a really rude tone saying, "I don't even want none." At that point I said, "You know what? I think you're being really rude to my mom, and if you to my husband want to make your own food, then feel free." I kept cooking, and at this point was trying not to get emotional. I could feel myself starting to cry. I'm also 5 months pregnant, so hormones and emotions are stupid right now. My mom just kept making comments and asking why I would do it, how she's going to tell my sisters how I cook it, etc. I let her know they have actually had my spaghetti, and even they say you don't taste the difference, and spaghetti is one of my sister's all-time favorite meals, so she would definitely let me know. Anyway, my mother was like, "Oh, I'll try it, and I'm curious to see if this is any good," but then the condescending comments kept coming while she was probably thinking she was making light of it, but I really just found it rude. My husband responded to one of her comments agreeing. I told them both I was overhearing it, again, and screw both of you. At this point my emotions broke through, and I almost started crying, but it was just my voice cracking. I kept cooking and hoped they hadn't noticed. But my mom kept going until I finally asked her to please leave. She tried to apologize but still held to her opinionated responses about how she just doesn't know why I would do that and how could I mess up the simplest of dinners. I told her she could go again. My husband said, "I've told you not to make it that way. I don't know why you would," as she was going to the door to leave. I finished making dinner, made the kids and I bowls of spaghetti with our breadsticks, pettily leaving none for my husband, and we said our prayers and ate together. Halfway through eating, my husband asked where the breadsticks were, and I said we ate them. "You can make yourself something to eat." He asked, "So because I don't want the spaghetti, I don't get any breadsticks?" I answered no, because you wanted to be rude about the food I was making, and sat back encouraging my mom to be rude as well. "You can make your own food." He said a few things complaining while walking away from us at the table, and I just am curious if I'm the asshole for asking my mother to leave and being petty about the breadsticks after being treated what I felt was so poorly while making dinner. I understand that's my mom, but she was a guest in my home and had never even tried it before deciding it was outrageous. And my husband didn't like the lima beans in it but ate all of it last time. I'm not asking for it to be his favorite, but his tone and the lack of care to how I was being treated made me not want to let him have any of the food I was making for our family. ITK. I know I'm not a perfect human, but am I an asshole? Edit. After many responses, I'd like to say thanks for the feedback. In the end, it truly is not super serious. I won't be adding lima beans to my spaghetti anymore, and looking into whether the other vegetables actually add nutritional value or not, because that shocked me to hear that they potentially are pointless altogether. In the end, hopefully my mom figured out that you should be nice to the pregnant lady trying to feed her family and try something before berating it, and my husband didn't enjoy dinner with the family, nor did he have a delicious breadstick. In a week, this won't matter at all. First comment, my dad did a variation of this. I'm the eldest child and a girl, so ended up doing a fair bit of cooking in my teens and early 20s when I was still living there because both my parents were working. One night, one of my younger teen brothers complained about what we were having. Dad calmly put his fork down, looked at him, and told him he was cooking dinner the next night. The next night, that brother made dinner for the entire family. and our dad sat there and repeated every complaint he had said about my cooking the night before. Brother was almost sobbing, saying I did the best I could. Dad then said, "Do you now understand why the comments you made were inappropriate? How upsetting it is for someone who took the time to ensure every person here got fed a hot meal at the end of a day to hear." Edited to add, at the time there was around 12 people living in that house, all with different tastes, and I was making a main item 90% of the family would eat with various side dishes so that everyone had at least one item they would eat without complaint. The youngest were toddlers. Early primary, elementary school, high school, and adult. I was mostly vegetarian in that I would pick a non-meat option 80% of the time, so would often have extra veggie side dishes or even make up my own vegetarian mince to go with pasta if the day was going well. Some of my brothers were virtually carnivores. AITAH. When brother made dinner, he only thought about what he wanted to eat, so had some upset kids he was trying to convince to eat a dish they absolutely hated and had been vocal about hating it every time I made it, even though they had their own meal. Because making 2 meals on a night with that planned was easy since there were crossover ingredients. My parents were thankful I had some quick stuff to cook for them. Second comment, okay, lima beans are really gross. I have angsty childhood memories of me sitting at the table for hours because I refused to eat them, and really, I pretty much will eat just about anything else. I have things I am not fond of, but I'll try just about anything. I do, however, sneak extra veggies into dishes. I tend to use more neutral ones though, like summer squashes, cauliflower, peppers, mushrooms, etc. I don't think adding potatoes or corn to pasta makes sense because both have a lot of carbs and not all that much nutrition in comparison to other veggies. But tonight I made turkey chili with onions, peppers, zucchini, beans, and tomatoes. When I make fish cakes, I used potatoes, green onion, peppers, and shredded carrot and use almond meal to bread them. But boo, you do you. Your mom was beyond rude and your husband was a jerk to his wife who was cooking for him while he played games. Third comment, NTA. But also, you're being dismissive yourself. Don't you have a thing that you hate that your husband likes? What if he kept putting it in things all the time and was telling you that it's not a big deal and to just deal with it? I have lots of food preferences. You could cook my favorite thing in the world, but if you add cilantro to it, it tastes like AITAH. Am I not allowed to complain because it wasn't me who put in the work to cook it? Am I supposed to eat shitty food for the rest of my life every time it's my husband's turn to cook? I think this whole mess happened because your and your husband's communication sucks. You didn't listen when he was trying to tell you something. He then, instead of discussing it with you, continued to eat what to him is shitty food, resentment built, and then when he felt like he had a support in your mother, he let it all out. How hard is it to put a spaghetti on a plate for him before you add beans to it? He's not your child. You don't get to decide what he eats. Let it be known that I'm commenting on this specific situation without making assumptions about the division of labor in your house. I know most of the Reddit is running with the assumption that your husband doesn't do anything ever, so he needs to shut up and take it.